acceptance.
Hey guys, welcome to the tech capital of the world in Kernersville, North Carolina. Bobby Davis, the CEO and founder of Foundry. Hey Kevin, it's almost Christmas. You bought all your gifts yet?
All online, yeah.
All online, okay.
All online, just like last year.
Where your wife refused to pay shipping because it wasn't from Amazon. So
yeah, so talk about spoiled by Amazon, right? And Amazon Prime. It's like she wouldn't tell me even what the item was, right? She's basically like, well, there's one thing I didn't get you for Christmas because shipping was $20. I'm like, just spend the $20. What are we talking about here? It's $20. Like, yeah, but it's free on Amazon. I'm like, then buy it on Amazon. She's like, it's not available on Amazon. Okay. She didn't even tell me what it was because I'm not going to get it, apparently. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. We do get spoiled by things like Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
But
so we're rounding up into the year here, and so as we get closer to the end of the year, a lot of people are going to be thinking about like what they should be doing as careers. We know that as a new thing when you see you're coming around like, hey, can I jumpstart my career? So learning to code is one of the things that we preach. But sometimes people complain that we rep C# and not everything else on the planet. So we had a comment on YouTube, and hey, if you made this comment and you're watching, we're not making fun of you. What we really want to do,
no, not at all,
is explain our position. So we don't think that your comment is entirely wrong. We think
it's not wrong. It's just it's misguided slightly in what
and how we think about things.
Exactly.
And so like we want to just show you what we think about. So if we can throw that comment up there, I think that's pretty interesting. We can read it.
So it was on this video, which is the let me.
Now look at those sweet posters in the background. X-Men. Oh, that's cool. That's an early set. Look at that.
It is. We need to put these ones back up again. I do like these ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the video was which backend coding language should I learn? This was from 2019. So it's been out there for a minute. Yeah. It's got 88,000 views. It's a pretty good video for us. That's pretty good. And the comment was this one. This was 17 hours ago.
Yeah.
So let me blow this up just a little bit more and I'll read it out to you. So it says, am I the only one that thinks this channel is a bit too much? C# is perfect for this, and C# is the future. C# is the best backend language because there are a lot of opinions or options, for backend. Like if you're a front-end dev too, like Node.js is awesome because you don't even need to learn a new language. Okay? Or Python if you love its syntax, or even Go or Java. I think was that the end of the comment? I think it was the end of the comment. That was the end of the comment. So. Okay.
So here's what Freight Light Canigan, I don't know. But anyway, so like here's what I think that we need to take away from this and the approach to Coder Foundry. So if you watch a video, and we're going to respond to you, we made a video about this while we planted our flag on C#. Here's one of the things that the mistake people make all the time in learning to code. And I think it's a mistake that content creators like in our space make as well, is they have this common belief, learn whatever you want, doesn't matter what you learn, build a project that makes you happy and go get a job. And so those are two things that we think are fundamentally false. So what happens is there's people out there that are learning 9 things at once or 7 things at once. And I see it all the time, like, hey, just learn JavaScript and, and now I'm going to learn Python and next week it's going to be Java, and it's like, they never focus their learning on one particular stack. So if you come to the Coder Foundry YouTube channel and you ask us, what should I learn? We're going to have a definitive stand on that. Now, our stand is based on objective research, like where we're placing people into jobs, we're getting them work. We understand and totally accept, hey, React and Node, merge stack stuff out there, Pern stack, Node. We understand there's Java, we understand there's Go, there's Dart, there's Flutter, there's React Native. There's 1,000 ways to break in. But we think fundamentally you need to pick one, build an app in that, and get a job. And then they'll pay you to learn the rest. So this is why people don't break in, because they never become proficient in one particular stack. And that's why we push C# as a stack in general, because we think it's the stack of the enterprise. In fact, Sean Roganoff has a quote in here about his first job, and I think he's working at Belk's or Dillard's or something like that, a major retailer. Web API backend.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, right here.
Guess what? Web API on the back end, on a corporate server, Angular on the front end. Super common. We don't teach Angular here because it could be React, could be Blazor, could be MVC. But that Web API on the back end is a lot like an MVC controller, most likely, or very similar, except it doesn't return a view, returns JSON data. So like, it's very similar. C#, man, where you're spending most of your time in that C# backend, and that's why we teach it. That's why we are excited about that, and we think it leads to employment and leads to jobs. Learn one thing, they'll teach you to learn the rest. I'm pretty sure Sean has learned Angular on the fly out at his new work, and they're perfectly happy to do that.
Yep.
Because
so it's kind of like. So the opinions like this, and we do see this a lot. Like, oh, this channel we get accused of being paid by Microsoft. Doesn't happen. Never has happened. Just to say that it's not currently happening and never has. We're not saying it never will, because that would be cool. Exactly. We would totally do that.
Looking at you, Scott Helmsman, make it done, make it happen.
But that wouldn't change the reason behind why we say what we say. It just wouldn't. It just wouldn't. So that's just how it is. There's a lot of confusion around like. We'll often like say why this other language doesn't work for this reason or that kind of stuff, and we do that. We did the JavaScript thing, but it's like we're not saying that none of these other things work. We're just saying you need to plant your flag in something, right? And we're saying we like C# to plant your flag in because XYZ reasons, right? You can pick another thing, and it's like. This guy saying like, oh, you can do all these other things. You can, but as a content creator on a platform, you've got to pick something.
And I do think we picked something, and everyone else in our space has picked something as well.
Everybody's
We're not the
picked
only
something.
channel. There's Python channels, there's React channels, there's the Django channels. There's a lot of guys that we know that build all their stuff because that's how they know how to do it, and that's how they build it, and that's perfectly acceptable. The one thing about his comment that I don't like is people say you pick Python because the syntax is great. And that is the worst reason to pick anything. Like, it's terrible reason to do it. You pick what is in demand in the enterprise. And when you start looking at what are corporate enterprises and companies hiring for, it's .NET and C#. I mean, like, they are. You know, there is no CEO on the face of this planet that say, you know what, Kevin, I really like that syntax on Python. We're going to change all the back end to it because I just love the syntax.
Right.
That's not the decision that happens. It's about scalability. It's about finding talent. There's a lot of reasons that people pick .NET to run their company on. And it has a lot to do with support for Microsoft, support for these things, finding available talent. How many people know .NET? A lot. You know, like, is it in demand? Is it scalable? Is it fast? It answers all those questions and ticks all those boxes. And that's why corporations use it. And this is why we recommend it, because we feel like it's going to lead to a job. Now, is it the easiest thing to know? Maybe not. I think they're about the same. But like, let's say that you find object-oriented programming hard. That doesn't mean you shouldn't invest the time to learn it. That's all we're saying is that we teach what we think is necessary, not necessarily what's easy. And that's why we know if you know ASP.NET and C# can build web APIs, you can get a job doing this. Absolutely, 100%.
Definitely. And we'll answer that question back too, by the way, on the thing. We haven't replied to it yet, but we will, with something along the similar lines of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I will get to questions. I've been queuing them up while Bobby's been talking here, so we will...
Hit me up on Super Chat if you want to buy us tacos today, or you need a burning question answered, like you don't know what to get your mom for Christmas. We'll answer that one, you know.
Will we? I'm not prepared for that.
Yeah, we'll give it a best shot, you know. So like, I don't know what to get her.
Okay.
We'll give you a best shot.
Okay, we can totally try. I'm queuing up your questions, so we'll go through them in order. If we'll get to as many as we can. There's one other thing we want to talk about too, though, and it was a tweet from yesterday, and it's along similar lines, kind of, to what we're talking about, but it's a .NET thing again. But this time it was. So let me give you a little bit of background to this. This was the tweet from a company called OnGraph Technologies. I had never heard of them before yesterday. I've no idea who they are. They're an Indian-based company that says chatbot Internet of Things, AI, AR, VR development. Okay, so there's some using MeanStack, Angular, React, whatever, bunch of technologies listed. So here they say in their tweet, in Java versus .NET, there's no right or wrong choice. Agree?
Yep.
Sure. Yep. Both these technologies have their specific positive and negative aspects, but both of these can help you build dynamic and feature-rich applications. True.
Yep.
Good
You build
stuff.
anything with anything.
Great stuff. And a link to an article right here. Awesome. And then they posted this. This infographic, which is obviously their infographic, right? It has ongraph.com down here at the bottom. They created this, right?
Right.
They created this. So let's talk about this stuff over here, really, which is just mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling that they put this out. Firstly, the applications built in .NET can only work on Windows environment.
Completely 100% false. So like with .NET Core specifically, Microsoft made make it run on non-Windows machines. So when you see ASP Core now, you can build it and run it on a Linux host with or without a container, which means that you can just like copy this stuff up there and it'll run. We're doing it in Heroku right now, where our students push the .NET application to Heroku so that it runs on that. You also have cross-platform tooling like Xamarin that already runs on Windows, and it also runs in Android and iOS. So those are the things when this was put out. But see, when this
hasn't been true for a long time. Yeah,
this for a long time, this has not been true. I would say a good 3 to 4 years, where once containers, when containers, you could just run it anyway. Yeah. And now it runs natively in all those platforms. So this isn't true at all.
I want to say it was back in like 2016, maybe.
Yeah,
it might be that far ago.
So for a consulting company to come out and say this, it's like, okay, we get it. You're a Java shop and you don't like .NET. We get that, but don't lie about it. I mean, like, just say that we like Java better. You know, like, in fact, you don't even have to do the verses. Just take that off and then put what you like about Java. You know, Java Enterprise will run on any platform, I guess. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess it does.
Yeah.
All right, so let's the next one.
The comparisons are crazy. The next one was .NET is targeted at Windows users, though some open source implementations are available.
Okay, so you have Xamarin right now, and you also have this complete open source. ASP.NET is completely open source for the community to add and enhance and push things like that. It's targeting Linux, it's targeting Mac, and it's targeting Windows OS, obviously. You know, so like it's targeted. I wouldn't say at Windows users. It's wherever you're going to run your application at. Is what it wants you to do. It wants you to build your app and then target where you want. What he's not talking about here is the .NET MAUI that's coming out, which even pushes this even further, where .NET MAUI will deploy to multiple desktop type environments, which is Mac OS Desk, Windows Desk, and then iOS mobile, and then also Android mobile. So it's definitely not targeted to Windows users. It's wherever you want to run your app. That's what you want to do. And so like Microsoft is really kind of like taking this on and says, hey, you know, we used to be Windows only. Now we're targeting it everywhere.
Yep. Yeah. I think this last one's kind of funny because you do have to look at the comparison for this one. Because it's like, I don't know if, see, this one made me doubt the entire thing. It says there is a default IDE for .NET applications known as a Visual Studio. That could be a language thing. This isn't an Indian company, so maybe English isn't their first language. So I'm guessing it could just be a language thing. But it's known as a Visual Studio, which just seemed weird to me. And it's like saying there's one application versus Java saying there's a bunch of options. Is that a positive? Like, I don't know. Is that even a positive?
Well, I mean, number one, it's wrong. So like, there's Ryder from JetBrains. Okay, but so like you can buy one.
They're saying there is a default IDE. I guess the word default, like, I don't know. But you're right. It's like, they're trying to say there's like, I think what they're trying to say here is there's one option versus many options. I think that's the kind of comparison they're trying to say, which is just not true.
You know, and if I want to get snarky, Kevin, you know, I mean, let's be real and leave a comment. We just need to throw that Eclipse thing off the cliff. I mean, like, but just like, let's not count that one. I mean, like, you know, it's like, that's like saying you have 4 quarterbacks on your NFL team. All of them are bad, but that's okay. We have 4 and we have Aaron Rodgers. So like, you know, So number one, what I would say is Visual Studio by far is the most well-respected IDE on the market, period. So if you put that against any of those other ones, Visual Studio obviously wins. Second, you have VS Code, okay, the best code editor on the planet. And then you can go to JetBrains and get something like Ryder, which is also very well received as well if you need a pay option. So it also comes in free flavors and pay flavors. So it's got a little something for everybody. If you love Eclipse, I'm sorry I insulted your idea, but you might want to.
It's okay. You don't have to love everything. Based on this, Colin has a question. Java, I can use one JRE to dev an app, and then I need to install my app on a customer server that uses a different version of that JRE. I wonder if this happens with .NET.
Nope.
Okay.
It depends on what we're talking about. So, like, if you're talking about a mobile application, obviously that's going to be different things you need to install on a mobile app. If you're talking about a desktop app, the .NET libraries that will run on desktop, you have to install there. And then if you're running something on a server, like a web API, it is different. It's not really, but it's really one .NET that services all of these things. So you're going to package them maybe differently, but like in general, it is only one .NET. So he's talking about the JRE, the Java Runtime Engine. But I think deployment's super easy. I don't think that's even an issue at this point.
Right.
So, but if you're running web API, yeah, it has different parts of the framework that you're going to use. And if you run it to desktop, you got different parts of the framework there.
So this tweet,
anyway.
this tweet kind of crazy. By the way, I went and looked at their account. This had 15 retweets, 146 quote tweets, and 61 likes. Their account, by the way, normally gets like 1 or 2 of these. So this definitely like kicked up a storm. Well, my suggestion to them was, hey, you should literally delete this. It is just plain wrong. There's no misinterpretation of this here. It is just wrong. It is just a lie. Whatever credibility you think you have by gaining some social proof by putting this out, you've just thrown away. Every comment was a negative comment, by the way. Every comment was just like, what are you talking about? This is just trash.
Exactly. Anyway,
so even Scott Hanselman retweeted it, and David Fowler retweeted it. So all the Microsoft
I didn't retweet it. I just commented on it. Like, wow.
I commented on it too. I had to. Be like, you guys have no credibility now. Sorry, you just shot yourself in the foot with this thing. What are you doing?
Then they followed me, which is kind of funny. Like
it makes me wonder. Like, clear they haven't deleted it. They haven't fixed the story. They haven't fixed the infographic. Nothing. They've had nothing. They're just happy with it.
Want it for interactions, I guess.
Exactly. Happy with it causing an issue. Like, I don't understand that.
So
I guess the no news is bad news thing. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let's go through some of your questions. I had one question first that I'm going to address. So I'm going to get to your question first, Sean. Actually, you sent me a message on Discord. I can't put it up on the screen, but hold on, I have it here somewhere.
Okay.
So Sean, as you said, starting his first job. It is at Dillard's, by the way. He did clarify that. So the question is: so you've landed your first job doing something in development. He's considered a programmer analyst in his current role, who happens to do full stack dev with C#, Angular, Knockout JS. What would you recommend I work on in my own time that I've broken into the industry? So we're starting the Movie Pro project tonight, but what's the most important thing in getting that second job? So getting to the 75, 85K mark from where he's sitting now.
Oh, I think the second job is easier than the first one. So like if you're trying to get to that 75, 80K job, you need to, at this point, put your time in and deliver. And obviously you're going to know a lot of Angular within a year or a year and a half. Definitely keep leaning into Web API, those things like that. If you want to pick up something new, now's the time to pick up something new. So definitely you could look at Blazor, you could look at React, those kind of things. To go along with your web API stuff. I would look at to security. I would like lean heavily into that, like how authorization works on the web API. Lean into some of the enterprise features that you didn't have to write for your current job, and then start looking at where your gaps and knowledges are and just keep adding to it. Definitely look into database side of it as well. And so that's what a database security, keep learning about C# web API backend, maybe add another front end to it if you want to, or just lean more heavily into Angular, and then look for another Angular job after this.
I would say you could also look at, like, and maybe it's not for your next gig, but maybe even the one after that, is what's your dream job, right? So where do you ultimately want to end up? Look at what they're using and learn that. So if you if you want to work at Microsoft or Google or something, maybe there's that, or the big company down the road or whatever. Look at what they're doing and then learn whatever their stack is. So then when you go to interview for them, not only do you now have the experience, but you now have a matching stack as well. So you have a much better chance of getting in there. So look at that too.
I would say, if I already know something, I would definitely be looking at Blazor this year, because I do think that's coming down the pipe. Even though
we obviously think
commonly
WebAssembly is going to be a thing.
I do. I still hot on that. So learn what you're doing at work, and then you can look at Blazor on the weekends. So I think that's good.
Yep. And thanks for the question, John. John sent it to me on Discord,
Yep.
so it was a little bit longer than. Okay. Let me see. Oh, I like this question. Is jQuery still relevant in 2021?
So, okay, there is a ton of jQuery out there in development. So like if you get on a project, it's more than likely that they use jQuery for the JavaScript library. If you listen to Tech Twitter, it's gone out of vogue. If you look at Twitter Bootstrap, they remove reliance on jQuery. So the way we teach it here is vanilla JavaScript. That's the way we do it.
Bearing in mind, we used to teach jQuery, right? jQuery
so is it irrelevant? It's not irrelevant because there's going to be so much legacy code in there. So yeah, you can still learn it if you want. I mean, so it's not where I'm focused on, but that doesn't mean that that I'm right on that. So I would imagine there's a ton of that stuff out there.
I think we're in that like interim period, aren't we? We're in that exactly in the middle of shouldn't you?
Dominate, and it's going to be a different way of doing it. I think vanilla JavaScript has come a long way since jQuery was developed for obvious reasons, and now there's a lot included just in vanilla JS. Knowing how to do things in jQuery is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's never going to be a bad thing, right? To say you have it right now and to learn it, it's not going to, when they see that on your resume, that's not going to detract from you. That's not going to make you look bad that you know how to do it, because chances are they may be using it still wherever you are.
You might see it quite a bit. So like, but it shouldn't be the focus of your learning, though. Put it that way. I don't think it is the fundamental skill you need to know. I mean, it's good, but I don't think that's moving the needle necessarily with everyone in the job market.
Yep. Let's see. Alexander says, purchase the self-paced bootcamp. Awesome. Thank you for joining us there. We appreciate it. We're excited to see what comes out of all the work I put into it. That's awesome. What you get out, what you put in. It's true. Thank you guys for the deals and ways to help us get into a new career and upgrade our life. That's awesome. Thank you, Alexander. We appreciate it.
That's what we want. We want you guys to buy this bootcamp and spend 2 or 3 months with us, get a job, come back and visit us and tell us how great you're doing. That's what we want. So I think that is a fantastic outlook on it, as how to use it and get a new career. And we're going to keep upgrading the platform too. We're working on that content this quarter, trying to get everything out by the end of the year. We should have something new soon.
We're talking about that.
I think you'll like it.
An hour before we jumped on here. So.
Yeah, I was just talking to some of the content creators today saying, hey, get it out. So we're going to get it out for the end of the year.
Endmine says, divergent from reality. This is a Microsoft channel. That's what we discuss here. It's not a Microsoft channel. I mean, they don't own it. Like
they don't own it.
Here's what we say about our channel. Exactly.
We put the flag on it if we could, man.
Here's what we say about like the content that we decide to talk about and teach. Like, Bobby owns and runs and makes all the decisions about this bootcamp. Yeah. If C# and .NET and Microsoft tomorrow was like not the choice, we would teach something else. We're not.
We're not like until it lets me down and we can't like find jobs for you guys. I mean, like, there's no way that I'm going to pick something else to teach the bootcamp on because it's trendy. I mean, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for things you can get hired to do.
Yeah.
Trendy doesn't move the needle in a job interview.
And here's the problem with trendy, though. Trendy will get you customers. This is why you see some other people do exactly this.
Yeah.
Trendy will get you customers because it's like what's hot right now, and people will search for like the bootcamp that teaches that one trendy thing, and they want to go there because it's trendy to learn. They have a terrible experience afterwards because they can't get a job in it. But hey, they sold the thing up front, so it's like it's trendy. That's not what we do.
Right.
That's just
so we're hopping on something. We've hopped on this train a long time ago in 2014. We're still one of the only few .NET bootcamps in the country. So we're definitely against the grain on like how other people teach it. And I understand that most of them are teaching React full stack. So, but that doesn't mean that I'm moved by that. Just because everyone else does it that way doesn't make it right. I think teaching you enterprise technologies that are used in enterprise is the way to go. So that's why our bootcamp is so hard. That's why it is so difficult, because we teach enterprise solutions and not just a to-do list. We make a joke all the time, like, hey, we're going to make a to-do list, in the first 5 days that you're here. And then I see some boot camps that the to-do list is like their capstone project. It's like, yeah, we solved that a while ago. You know what I mean? That's why we teach the hard stuff that we teach, and that's why it's so difficult to pass through it. So you'll see if you go in the self-paced course, these projects are massive. It's not like a simple hello world stuff. I mean, it's very massive. So I think it's really good.
Okay, Damien says, Code Foundry trying to get approval to accept veterans benefits, Chapter 33, Vet Tech, etc., etc. There's a bunch of these programs, right?
Call in, talk to us in admissions if you're interested, and we'll tell you what we can approve. We have something through the vets, but we can't do everything. Vet Tech isn't.
Some programs we're in, some that we're not, right?
Yeah. So it's just the government. It's trying to get approved is like, it's crazy. Like, so we get approved for one and we send the same thing to the other group and they go, no, we don't,
it's weird.
So like, so we'll just call in. We do have a program that people have got accepted. The VA paid for it.
I can't remember which program it is. Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of these things, isn't there? That people come up. It's like, what about this one?
Just
like, I don't know.
Let's
look.
And then we'll tell you what to do, and then you can go talk to someone at the VA, and then you can see if you qualify for that.
Yeah, we have had, like you say, we've had people who have used VA money before under some program.
But it's
again,
only
admissions
for the in-person boot camp, so it's not for the self-paced course. We'll never get approved for the self-paced course because they don't approve programs. They don't approve purely online courses like that.
Okay. Colin says, so I don't use C# at all, 99% Windows Dev, but I do not use Microsoft tools. What is this? I've never heard of it. Have you heard of that? C++ builder for Windows apps, the VCL framework, and open source web tools like PHP and JS.
Okay.
Cool.
So he's a Windows dev, and he's writing his Windows in C++. That's fine. I mean, like, it's definitely supported in .NET Framework. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And then the VCL framework. So for web, I guess he's doing PHP and for web, which is fine too.
Okay, there you go. Did we decide this is Sport Life or Spirit Life? And I'm sorry, I don't remember, but sorry. I don't know if we decided this last time. I remember seeing it. Is Jan directed towards people who want to learn web dev in particular or CS as a whole?
So we're definitely in the web dev arena because we still think that's the most in-demand job. So that's why we kind of lean into that. So we're not into assembly language. We're not into C++. We're not really into like compilers and all that kind of stuff. So like CS as a whole would be those types of discussions. So we're going to target in and around web development until those job prospects change for web development. Then when it changes, we'll do something else that's more to be job ready. So we're more about getting a job and telling you the things you need to do to get a job and what you need to learn versus teaching you CS concepts. That's not our role. You can actually Google most of those and learn those on your own as well. So hope that helps. It's got a cool logo though.
Yeah.
Little down arrow thing.
The branding is cool.
Definitely. Yeah. I like it.
Okay, I'll get back to you. Mark says, what is the current status of the self-paced course topics and videos? And this while going through it, I was thrown into C# MVC without a C# primer.
Okay. Did you start from the very beginning? Yeah, we're going to start from the very get-go with C# and MVC. That's what and just learn it that way.
So
it's okay.
So I'm guessing what he's saying is the course didn't give him an overview of like, there's not a video that says, what is C# and here's the fundamental things in the C# language. And that is by design. That is not like we haven't just like left that out. Yeah.
So like, if you want a primer, I'll give you one right now. C# is a general purpose programming language that can be used to build lots of things. That could be anything from a desktop app, a mobile app, to a web app. We're teaching you how to build a web app. We think MVC is the best way to do that. Now, the language syntax itself, if you went all the way through the JavaScript stuff, then when you go into this and we start showing you how to build Fizz Buzz from JavaScript, then we build Fizz Buzz in C#, then you start seeing, okay, this is how the language works, and this is the design pattern MVC. This is what I follow, and then we go from super easy to address book to to blog to bug tracker, and keep doing it that way.
Yeah, we try not to reinvent
Mark,
the wheel
if
with
you need
reference.
an overview of stuff like that, just send something in Discord, and maybe tag Andrew or Jason or something like that, and we'll go through your ideas, and maybe we'll make a video about it. If it's something that we feel like you're just totally confused and you can't do it, we can definitely add to the self-paced course if that's what you need. And
we are definitely open to ideas for sure. But
yeah,
what we don't do is
we're not going to build it as a console app though. So like I'm just having an aversion to that. Like, so a lot of times when you see C# primers, they're showing you how to do this in a console log, and it's like you can do it that way, but then we have to teach you the web way all the way, and so you kind of just start over. I mean, but basically, if you need an overview of if-then or switch case statements or anything like that, we definitely could go through those kind of language fundamentals and show you how that works. But we'll always do that in the context of an MVC application, or what's coming down the pipe now is Web API. That's how we're going to teach it, in the context that you're going to be using it. So we think that's a better way to learn it. It's just our that's our style. Hopefully that helps, Mark. But we'll definitely help you out if we can.
Okay. I don't know if this is a question to you or not. But what were your first 3 projects you put on your resume, not necessarily your favorites? Let's just take this as what are 3 projects you should put on your resume, not necessarily your favorites.
The one that you can demo the best. Yeah, I mean, so the one that you can demo is the one you should put on your resume. Your resume also is more about job history. So I'm thinking more on portfolio. Portfolio is a better place to put those. But if you do have compiled demo ready projects, you can definitely show those links right at the top of your resume, or you can build a portfolio that has one link that they can go look at the different projects that you have. But definitely the one that you can demo the best should be the first one.
There you go. Let me see. Adrian wants to know your thoughts about Django, Python framework.
It's another framework. It's fine. I mean, like, we just don't use it. Like, so I don't have any other thoughts on that. I mean, like, if that's the route you want to go and you want to use Python to build websites, go for it. But look at the job opportunities for the Django versus .NET Web Dev or ASP.NET or Web API. And you'll see what we're talking about, that there's just more opportunities out there for you for this other thing. It doesn't mean that that thing is bad or this thing sucks or anything like that. It just means that the majority of the companies are using something else. And I say learn what they're hiring for, not necessarily what's cool or in vogue. Just because there's content creators out there that are basing their whole channel in around the Django doesn't mean that a lot of companies are using it. It just means that's what they're doing. Just like we focus on C#.
Right.
The reason we do it is because we think companies are hiring for it. Not because we think it's cool. It is cool. We think it's cool, but the reason we pick it is for the job prospects. And that's the only reason I would pick anything to learn. That's about it.
There you go. Mr. Me says, difference between deploying and publishing.
It could be used interchangeably.
Yeah, I think totally interchangeable. Yeah. I don't think there's while there may be some kind of deep technical difference, I think people use those words in exactly the same same way.
I think publishing came from the App Store, where you were like pushing your app into the App Store, so it's published. Deployment usually meant I'm going to push this to a server somewhere, and that's either infrastructure you're renting or you control. But ultimately, what it's saying is I've compiled my code, now I'm going to push it to wherever it needs to run.
Right.
So, also, deployment could mean I had to copy it to a bunch of desktops in a desktop arrangement. Publishing could be going to the App Store. So, hope that helps.
Okay, I have a question from somebody here in Turkey. Hello, thank you for the great content. I have a question as a developer from Turkey. I've been coding since middle school, now 23. When is it possible to land a job and move to the US?
Is it possible? Yes. Do I know how to do it? Not necessarily. So we're not an expert on like the visa situation. So you're going to need some kind of visa to get into the U.S. and have a right to work in the U.S. So like there's a visa situation. So you need to like figure that part of it out.
My guess would also be over the last couple of years that those visas must have been less. Well, they must have been over the last since
Yeah,
the
I don't
COVID
know.
era and remote work being the way that
I
it
do
is.
think H-1Bs change with the wind and how many they let in and let
too,
out and
yeah.
how many there are and like
Yeah, it's all over
so
the
you just
place.
have to look into it and see what's possible. You definitely can start interviewing and try to talk to people and try to work and try to find something, maybe a remote job only, and then they move you to the U.S. That kind of stuff. You definitely can work remote because that happens all the time. So my advice is find a company in Turkey that is working with U.S. based customers, latch onto that company, and then start coding remotely or working from that company in Turkey. I know you don't get paid as much, I get it, but like, and then build relationships, and maybe you can spin one of those relationships into a stateside job. But you got to have a visa, you got to get over there, you got to get out of the country, those kind of things. So it's complicated. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. Is it possible? People do it all the time. There's people in here on visas all the time, so it's possible to do.
And working with a recruiter too might help with that as well. Recruiters here
Yeah.
definitely will post jobs that are saying like, we see them all the time. They're like, we'll see some jobs posted where it's like they'll say H1 visas accepted or H1 visas not accepted. That's kind of a common thing that we see all the time.
Yeah.
So
but those people already have it, so they're typically
Right.
already in country. You just have to be sponsored on that visa. If you don't have that, you got to figure that part of it out. How does that work?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Jordan's question says, in respect to .NET jobs, oh, I like this one. Where is a junior developer most likely to get hired, front end or back end?
Both. So like we see jobs where some are being hired at a lot of places, and they're doing both. Or they're doing front end only. There's or they're doing back end only. So
depends on the company, depends on the job, the project, whatever.
So my advice is learn full stack web development, so that you know what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is. You know how to do those kind of things, and then you also know how to operate those on the back end, which could be an MVC controller or a web API controller. So like all of those things gives you the best opportunity to land somewhere. Now we've had people here that left the Coder Foundry and went to an HTML like only job because they like design and they like that kind of stuff, and they went to a purely HTML job. Then we've had others like Sean went to another bootcamp, went to our self-paced course, and he's working at a retailer and web API and Angular. So it's all we're trying to do is teach you the skills, interview those skills with the job, and match a stack up and get paid that way. How they do it front end, back end, it doesn't matter to me as much as long as you get paid. You can always take that next job to do something different after you have a 1 year to 2 years experience.
Definitely. Okay, Mr. How does one determine what technologies a particular company is using?
If they have a job posted, Mr. Me, they'll probably tell you what stack they're doing.
Job posts are definitely the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's how you know.
There's also some you can figure out, there are some plugins that you can use on Chrome that'll tell you like what a site runs on. It's kind of interesting. That's not the best way. The job posts are definitely the best way. That's how people know, like, that's the only reason we know Apple's working on a self-driving car, because of job ads.
Yeah.
It's the only reason we know. They've never said anything official about a self-driving car, yet we know they've hired people from like Uber, and they've hired like people. So they've literally talked about it in the job ads. So that's how you can find out. Definitely.
Yeah. So basically what we say, Mr. Me, sounds like you're early on in the process. Learn a stack and then do job searches on Indeed with that stack. And that way you'll find all the job posts. Like if you're looking for ASP.NET, you can search for ASP.NET jobs. You can look at all the job posts. And then that way, when you apply for that job, the skills that you've learned match the need. So many people apply for everything, and they never consider what I've learned, does it match with what they're trying to do? And that's why the job searches are sometimes long, because they don't really think about that match between the stack that I know and the stack that they're doing, especially in that junior dev. They don't want to like teach you something new. They want to make sure that you can come in and contribute day one. And so, try to align yourself with what they're doing. And so learn something very well and then apply for jobs that have that stack. So that's how you know.
There you go. And Mark, anytime.
No problem, Mark. Anytime. That's what we're here to do. Yeah.
Let me see. What's the next question?
Hey, it's got about 20 minutes. So like if you have I'll answer this in a second. If you have a burning question, make sure you super chat so we can get you in here. I see there's a lot of questions coming up. So like, if you want to, and you need something really urgent, like what do I get Mom for Christmas? We're here. So, all right.
Important stuff.
So are we in person or remote learning right now? So Wayne, if you call in, we can explain this to you, but you can go to learn.coderfoundry.com and you can see our two options. One's a self-paced option, totally online. One's what we call our in-person virtual bootcamp. Okay. Now it's a play on words there in that we have literally an 8-hour Zoom call that the instructors are with you 8 hours per day, 5 days a week. So because of COVID, we had to go in remote. That was a requirement here in North Carolina. And since then, people are coming from all over the world and all over the US to take our class. So now we can't go back to in-person because, if you're in California, they're not driving to North Carolina every day to take the class. They're not moving here for 3 months. So like, it's just the way it's going to be going forward. Now, what we've done is it is very interactive. So like, just like if you were in a classroom and you raise your hand and ask the teacher a question, you can literally do that in our Zoom calls. So you just say, hey, Jason, or hey, Andrew, what's up? Hey, Bobby, can you ask you a question? And you raise your hand and we share screens. We do a lot of screen sharing technology so that we can make it feel like you're just right next to the instructor. I don't think there's a boot camp on the face of the planet that spends as much money as I do on teaching staff to make sure they're there 40 hours a week. And there's usually 2 in the classroom, and then we limit it to about 25 people. So like, it's very hands-on. You have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. If you take advantage of it, most people who do come out of here with a job because they learn a lot that way. So that's how it works. But you can call in and we can answer all your questions, Wayne.
Okay. Drew Mac wants to know thoughts on how to prepare for whiteboarding or programming problems during an interview.
I think practice. So I think I would go to practice, and then just practice whiteboarding them. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, there's a couple of good things you can do while you're doing it and things that you should practice. One is using pseudocode.
Yep.
And then, obviously, your final solution on the board shouldn't just be pseudocode, right? You're going to write things out, but you can start there because what they're really looking at is they're not really looking for it to be syntactically 100% correct. It doesn't have to compile, right? If you miss something or misspell something, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to compile. So you can pseudocode something that gives them then your logic, and then you can write out the code. And also talking about it a lot as well is the thing. Don't just like turn around and write the thing on the board for 10 minutes and then like, ta-da,
boring television.
Like, there you go. It's like, we've been there. We've done this. We've had people do whiteboard demos in front of us, and it's like, man, when somebody doesn't say anything, it is the most boring thing ever. Like, it doesn't matter if they get the right solution or not.
Immediately.
It doesn't matter if the solution's correct or not. It's just boring.
So you need to talk through your problem. Number one thing that I see as a category of thing that you can look at, Drew Mac, is look at manipulating arrays. So, for example, they may ask like, can you reverse this array of strings? And that's a reverse a string thing. And people think, it's simple. They ask it all the freaking time. So, and then there's other things like, can you reverse a string and then check to see if it's equal to the previous string, which is a palindrome. We see that still asked today. So can you filter this array? Can you remove the odd numbers from the array? Can you add all the numbers in the array and give me a sum of those? So anything about arrays is where I would start at. There are also the binary tree type questions. I haven't seen those as much recently. So I would start with, if you're interviewing for something not a FANG company, you're going to see things on the whiteboard that tend to be JavaScript oriented and tend to be something about an array or manipulating an array. So like I would look through all of those JavaScript whiteboard coding questions, just Google it and you'll see them come up. And then you can just practice them. And then you might even get the same one, which is kind of crazy.
If you get the same one, awesome, because you're just going to know it and it's easy. But practice talking through them and just know that if you have a framework too that you're going to kind of work through, think about a framework as well. So think about like what's your processes for attacking it. Yeah,
buy a whiteboard and work coding on a whiteboard, just like writing them down and learn how to type them or write them out. So I think that'd be good too.
Yep, definitely.
Hope that helps.
Manish wants to know, what are your views about low-code, no-code for .NET developers' future?
I don't know. I'm not even worried about low-code, no-code things. I don't think it's ever going to increase or replace what we're doing. Like what we're pitching you to do and learn how to do is never going to be a low-code solution. These are complex things that we're talking about. So, we work for, in the consulting side of the company here, we work for a really large Fortune 100 company. It's never going to be a low-code option. Like, it's just not going to be. Like, it's way more complex than that. So is there going to be a no-code option? Yeah. So, like, we have CMSs today. So they've been around forever. So it's things like Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, even to some degree. But has that reduced the amount of programmers needed? No, we just moved on to more complex problems. Well, anyone can build a website. I mean, why would I build a website from scratch? Okay, so with content management systems, that didn't reduce the amount of developers for the future. It's only gone. It's exponential. I was trying to get that word out. It's exponential. There's a lot more of them, Kevin. Right. So what are my views? I think there's some low code options that are really cool. But what you'll find, even in things that are well thought out, like forms, like there's a lot of form builders out there. So you can go to a form builder and thank you, Jordan. Thank you. $10.
We'll get to that question in a second.
We'll get that in a second. There's a form builder out there, but the moment it goes away from like the tier one solution, the most basic thing, and you need to do something else, you're writing code suddenly in that. So just to build the form is great. But trying to integrate it into my SQL backend or some other backend or some other thing, it suddenly you're writing code. Even with the low code options like the integration library, what do we use? Zapier. It's always we're trying to work around what Zapier can do and what the integration can do, and it's never kind of like, dang it, man. Yeah. So it doesn't quite work. And so what happens with low code and no code is once it goes beyond the tier one solution, it usually goes down to IT, and then they say, okay, I see what you're trying to do. I see what you want to do. Let me rebuild that for you. Now, is it fantastic for a business leader to go build a quick app with a low code option or no code option? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The moment that gets rolled out to production, they kick it down to IT and they're like, this is what it needs to do. I've got my POC out. But it needs to do all these other things. And my sweet no code doesn't do that because I can't write code. So I don't think it'll ever reduce the need for developers. Hence, you should learn how to code because you can enhance a low code, no code option or replace it. And then the ones that do come along that do like CMSs that come along that do replace website development, developers just move on to more complex things. And so it's a good thing, I think, for the future.
And don't forget, these things aren't necessarily new. The idea isn't necessarily new. Think about, we had like WYSIWYG editors, right, for creating web pages. Those have been around forever, right? You can make front page, right?
Been around since the 90s, man.
That's technically a no-code option. It was drag and drop, kind of putting things together. It created terrible code, but but that didn't kill web developers, did it? And that actually went away. So
exactly, it went away.
These aren't new. It's not a new idea.
So these things are coming out. It shouldn't discourage you from entering the arena. And also too, man, the other thing that I find a lot is with these low and no code options is the business units will come down and say, hey, we want to use this thing. And typically that gets passed down to IT anyway. And it's some programmer that's using Power BI or something like that to do all the low code, no code stuff for them because they don't want to create the dashboard. Really, they just want a dashboard to look at. And so like you'll find yourself using these low code tools because you're a programmer. So
right.
That's kind of what happens.
Right. It's still not, you're right. It's still not, they're not to a point where the everyman can kind of pick it up. Right?
Not
or
really.
every lady, the every man, whatever you want to say, the every person can pick it up, right? It's like, think about it like, most people here, like your parents probably wouldn't pick it up. Be like, oh, I can create an app with this low code, no code option. I can create Zapier to an Airtable connection, do this thing. It's like, no, it's still really quite technical.
Yeah, it is. And then like people don't know this about Azure. Azure up right now, you can like build a chatbot with Azure. Okay. With no code whatsoever. I've shown you how to do this, but what you have to do is think about like, what are my responses? What are the questions? And you have to fill all of these forms out. So it still takes a logical mind to do it. And if you're not wired that way and you're just in the sales team, your chatbot, even though it's no code whatsoever, is going to suck because you don't think through like how it's going to be used or how people do it. And that's why it's always passed down to IT to do these things. So integration, you get paid to do that too. So like, I think those are other things that you're not considering when you think about these things like low code. And now we got to make it do extra stuff. That's when it comes into a problem. That's why we always run into barriers with Zapier every single time I try to do it. Like, it'd be cool if the form could do this. And you're like,
there are use cases for it. Exactly. There are use cases for it. We've used some stuff. We've used Airtable. We've used Zapier. We've used some of the other, exactly. There's a bunch of these things that we've used, and it's like, for the basic thing, they work. But you're right. As soon as you go outside of that, like the basic use case, it's like, oh man, now what do we do? Now we gotta look for another tool, or we gotta build something. It always comes down to that. So, okay, let's get to Jordan's super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jordan. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jordan.
Jordan's question: should I focus on learning JavaScript first? Or follow the advice of my principal engineer friend and focus on .NET Web API. Also thinking about quitting my job to full-time, what does he say? To full-time coder Foundry. Thoughts?
All right. So if you're coming into Coder Foundry, we're going to teach you both of those, .NET Web API and JavaScript. Here's what I promise you, Jordan. If you call into us, we'll tell you like what you should do. But you're right. If you come to the in-person cohort, you do have to quit your job. We're here 40 to 50 hours a week. It's not something you lightly consider coming into Coder Foundry. So what I try to do is I interview each individual student coming in. You'll talk to me, and we talk about your career. We talk about what you want to do. We talk about situations like, what if you want to quit? What would happen? And so we figure out what your risk profile is and what you're willing to do and what you're willing to put into your career. And then we make recommendations whether you should do this or not, or go to the self-paced option, something like that.
And I will tell you, we don't tell everybody to quit their job and come take the course. I'll tell you that
we
right
tell
now.
A lot of people that you should go the self-paced route. And I've interviewed thousands of students, so I know kind of like, I've seen all of the, and I'm going to call these red flags, Jordan. Like I see the red flags right away and go, you're not really committed to doing this. Like it's a good idea right now. You like certain parts of it, but you're not committed to doing this. So when people commit to life change, I ask them a lot of questions and say, what are you trying to do? Like, why are you quitting your full-time job? Like, why would you do that? Like, and they usually have reasons for that. Or if some don't have good reasons, they just watch programmers on television, or they've seen things on Coder Foundry, or they've seen things on other channels, and someone's out there making 250 large, and like, I want 250 large. But there's a difference between working out too and getting in shape and what you're willing to do to look like The Rock. And then most of us are eating hamburgers, so we're not willing to go to that level. And so what we want to do is talk about the things that you're willing to do this. What should you learn? I think you should learn JavaScript and Web API. I think you should learn both. I think you need to learn both, because guess what? You have to call that Web API with currently on a web page, JavaScript. You're going to have to write some kind of like fetch routine to pull it back. So you need to know how to call it and write it. So you're going to have to learn both. So I think you should learn both.
Yep.
Cool.
We made a video about JavaScript like going away, right? That's not today. Just
not today. You need to learn it today.
People are saying like, no, that.
But for you guys that are in the industry right now, pay attention to WebAssembly. Eventually, it will come around, and you're like, oh, I don't want you to get left behind. So think about it.
Yep. Okay, yeah, here we've got a few more minutes left here. So Walla Walla Earth, I like the name. Oh, I like the little logo there. Cool. Would it be beneficial to have login on your portfolio? For example, the site would have basic info on my history, experience, etc. Then users would log in to access more details on my resume. Oh, so putting your resume behind a profile.
Depends on what you want to do, man.
Yeah. The problem is no one's going to sign up.
No one's going to sign up. So like, what's the point of doing that? You're saying, I don't want to expose my personal information. I get it. Hey, Alberto, what's up?
Hey, we'll get to your question in a second, Alberto.
A second.
For the super chat. So yeah, you're putting your information that you want to put out there behind a, let's just call it a paywall. It's not a paywall.
A paywall,
it's like
yeah.
It's you know, yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive because no one's going to see it because no one's going to set up. No one's going to create a profile.
So make sure that you have a LinkedIn profile, and your portfolio should be just free and easy for everyone to see. I think even if you have a portfolio project and you require them to sign up for the project and you just want to demo your code, they're not going to do it. So like most people aren't going to give you their username and password to see your resume. I mean, they're just not going to do it. So I would not do that.
You've just got to put it out there. I get the date. No, and I get this. So this, I know this is where you're coming from. Data privacy mainly, but
don't put your phone number out there. Don't put your birth date out there. Okay, that's don't put your social security number out there.
Yep.
But
create a generic email address. Sign up for a Google phone number. Ways that people can communicate with you, but you can also shut down. That's my best.
You're totally worried about it. But like before you do this, think about this. Do you have a Facebook account? Do you have Twitter? Do you have LinkedIn already?
Yeah.
Think
Trust
about
me,
that.
if somebody wants to find your information, they're going to find it.
So don't worry. Don't be so shut off from the world where you're worried that they might get an identity theft. I don't think that's really a thing. Now, I wouldn't put, like I said, birth date out there. I wouldn't put my phone number out there, and I wouldn't put my social security number out there.
Right.
Like that. So, but in general, you can avoid scams by just keeping those things private.
But again, even with
you
that
want
stuff,
to know people where you worked, and you want to know them reach out to you for a job, so they need to be able to see your stuff.
That's the thing. Yeah, you've got to put it out there because otherwise nobody's going to know how to reach you. So yeah, just anonymizing your contact details a little bit is okay.
Yeah, you can use a form if you don't want to put an email out there.
Yeah, we can use a form. Google numbers are free. Sign up for one that you just use for applications. Yeah. So if you know your phone rings with that Google number, you know that it's come from your portfolio.
Yeah. I think that works. I think there's other ways.
Yep.
All right, cool. Do we got a super chat?
We do. Let me go back here from Alberto. Let's see. What do we got here? So Alberto says, hello, when is the course Web API and React coming out? Oh, we're talking about this morning. I'm learning B.NET Web API from a book, but it's super complicated. It applies patterns over patterns and becomes very confusing.
All right, so I think the first thing you're going to see from us is Web API with Blazor. Okay, that's currently what's in development right now. I don't want to give a time frame on that because I've got Christmas holidays coming up, but sometime in the first quarter of next year, between January and March, that'll come out. I'm hoping it's more towards January than March, but we'll see. And so what does that cover? That's going to cover how to secure Web API. We're going to use something called Auth0 to do that because you got to build your JW token, JWT token, and things like that. And then we cover how to get your models, your database, Blazor, and then show you how to publish that somewhere. So like it's going to cover the whole gamut. We're going to use componentry inside of Blazor to do that. And then after that, we will start looking into if we put a React front end right on that. But we'll see how far we get with the Blazor side and see what's, but it's going to be React and Blazor pretty similar in like how they work. So this will show you how to build the web APIs from an enterprise perspective. You know, we are going to be using a new pattern, a mediator pattern inside that, but we'll go over all that and make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Albert. I hope that helps.
Let's see. Diversity says, I have 3 years of experience in .NET MVC web projects, and I want to explore other domains. That's awesome. Too, like machine learning, AI, and blockchain. I'll be able to do it in .NET.
100%. So there's ML.NET. Go look at ML.NET right now if you want to like jump into machine learning right now with .NET platform. Blockchain, Solidity. There's also some .NET wrappers around that. So there's already wrappers around a lot of this stuff for Ethereum development and things like that. So the way I look at blockchain development, though, is right now Solidity, and then you're going to build the interfaces around that with .NET, ASP.NET, and web apps. So cool. Hey, Scooter Carpenter. All right, cool. Hope that helps.
I like this one. Scooter says, I began learning C# as well as Unity for my end goal of game development using Unity. Is this an acceptable path for learning coding? Any suggestions? It's more than acceptable.
100%, man. Like if you're going to go after game, what I've always tell people is don't learn how to code, learn how to build a game. There, and so like this is the approach we asked when the guy asked before, why don't I have a C# primer? We're trying to teach you to build a website. So just start building the website. So if you're going to build games, then build a game, build multiple games, stick those on Steam if you can as an indie developer, and then show that game to a game development company. So like if you're targeting Epic or that's right here, or Riot or whatever you like, play League or Fortnite or whatever, you target those companies, learn what they're building with. Obviously Epic is an Unreal Engine, but if you had a Unity game and you've already shipped it and people make it working or playing it, then you're going to get a job in the industry. I promise you. A lot of times you'll see these game applications. Go look at them. Go on Indeed and say game developer, and go see the kind of things they're looking to do, and then build things like that. But typically they want a shipped game from a lot of developers now.
Yeah, you need a proof of concept, right? You need you have to. It's like the same as being a web dev,
but you can
right?
ship it on Steam by yourself. Right. Here's the other thing, Scooter. If you make a game that say goes to Steam for $5, do the math of 10,000 people but paid you for $5 for that thing. So it's not impossible to be an indie developer. And then when you look at things like, my best example is Minecraft was an indie developed game. The guy turned into $1 billion thing. Microsoft bought it. Then Terraria, the same thing. There's been a lot of these indie games that went large, and all they did was build it. And so you definitely can build a game with Unity and get it out. Now, Unity has some backlash from the community sometimes because they have to put the made by Unity splash screen in front of all the Unity games. Yeah. And that's because when you use it free, they want the splash game on there. And so typically the free ones sometimes links, hey, those are kind of crappy games. And so then they say the crappy game means that Unity's crappy, and that's not true. What that means is they're not really paying for Unity and they're not really invested. It's kind of a proof of concept. They're just learning those kind of things. But then there's some other really great games that have been built with Unity. They just pay for it and you don't see that splash screen. I
played something recently, actually, and I can't remember what it was, and it was really good. It had the splash screen, and it was really good. And I was like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it just matters, can you code it or not? I mean, that's really what it matters. Right. Unity is not the limiting factor. It's typically the programmer is the limiting factor.
Plus, I would say, okay, Unity and C# as well, you're ahead of the curve. You should be looking at also AR, VR. Yep. It's like, build something for the Oculus. There are some people have made a ton of money on Oculus games. And if you start looking at the Oculus game landscape, it's not very deep right now. It's really not. Yeah. There is definite room there. You look at the people who made Big Box Studios, right? They made Population 1. Right, it came out of nowhere. Nowhere, and it's a giant game on Oculus. But when you start looking at it, it's really not that sophisticated.
From a game standpoint.
From a game standpoint, it's really not. And it's like, wow, okay, this is not to the level of this is not AAA level game. Yeah. But it's a very, very popular game on that platform right now. So the floor is kind of low. Like it really is. You can definitely get in on that too. So don't. Yeah,
and Unity is the way to do it. I think right now it's definitely good.
Yeah. So don't discount VR stuff too for gaming. Definitely a platform to look at.
All right, Kevin. Well, it's 1:00, man. It's time to eat tacos. So let's go home and let's go eat some tacos.
It is. Thank you for all the taco money today. We appreciate it. Yep. Scooter, Alberto, did you send us it twice or did it show up twice? I think it just showed up twice, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully
I think it just showed up twice. If you send us it twice, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I only see it once. It just popped up twice. And Jordan as well. Thank you for the super chats. We definitely appreciate it. We'll be back, Tuesday?
Tuesday. We're back on Tuesday. See you next week.
We'll catch
Keep
you
cutting,
next time.
guys. See ya.